Hello from Bellows Falls. I'm Susan MacNeil, and it's been a minute since I've been in the Fact TV studios. I'm happy to be here today to share details about an upcoming event titled Life, Death, and Cake. A chance to talk about the importance of preparing for a good death. When my mother turned 85, she insisted that I attend When Mom Dies School. This resulted in ongoing instruction for the following 5 years. Not that I was a willing student, but being able to discuss death wishes with those we love is one of the most important things we can do. Joining me is Kasey March, an end-of-life doula. She and I will talk about death through the lens of our own experiences. Recently, I authored a memoir titled 18 Minutes, A Daughter's Primer on Life and Death. And Kasey is a trained international end-of-life doula. We met because of our common interests and decided to create a way to share what we've learned. We're offering a free 2-hour session to provide a framework for others to join in the conversation about the unknown journey of death. We invite you to come as you are to discuss end-of-life challenges and issues in a compassionate, respectful, non-judgmental environment. And there will be cake, coffee, and tea because, well, everything goes better with cake. You're probably wondering what it means to be an end-of-life doula. Kasey will be happy to tell you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kasey March and I'm an end-of-life doula here in Windsor County, Vermont. An end-of-life doula is a guide who helps a dying person and their loved ones through the sacred transition to end of life. Doulas are non-medical helpers who provide emotional, spiritual, and physical assistance. We can begin work soon after a person receives a terminal diagnosis, later when an individual's health declines more, and at a point where a person's body is beginning its final breakdown, or even after a death to help loved ones in their time of grieving. So what we do is we listen deeply to the concerns, fears, hopes, and life stories of the dying person and their loved ones to bring peace at the end of life. We hold space for the kind of dying experience that honors who the person is and has been in their life, and we help them live with purpose until their final breath. Doula's work is conducted in 3 phases: the summing up and planning phase, the vigil, and early grief and reprocessing. During summing up and planning, doulas visit and work with the dying person to review their life and develop a remembrance project, if that's something that they would like. As that work unfolds, the doula will also help the dying person and their loved ones create a vigil plan that expresses their wishes. During the last days of life, a period called active dying, the doula may provide presence at the bedside, emotional support, guidance on the dying process, and assistance with practical care and respite for caregivers. This period is called the vigil. After a client's death, a doula supports early grief and reprocessing. The doula may help loved ones process their experiences, provide information about the grief process, and facilitate some early work toward healthy return to living well-functioning and meaningful lives. I'm an International End-of-Life Doula Association trained doula. I provide open-hearted presence to the dying and their loved ones. And after witnessing the deaths of several loved ones, I was inspired to help others live their dying in the best way possible for them. I also serve as a hospice volunteer, and I pursued additional training in supporting those with dementia. At its core, dying well means having your wishes honored, giving you the death that you want. Many of us haven't thought about how we want to die or shared that information with loved ones. A doula is a guide on this journey.
Thank you, Kasey. So how do I fit into this picture? The 1-year anniversary of my mother's death was last week. I spent the final 18 minutes of her life on the phone with her, but she was unable to hear me because she didn't have an amplified phone in her room. As I wrote to deal with my grief and trauma, I realized that I had written a book not only about her death, but more importantly, her life, reflecting upon the 90-year legacy she left behind. 18 Minutes, A Daughter's Primer on Life and Death, is part love letter, part cautionary tale, and part instructional manual. My mother led an extraordinary, ordinary life. Ordinary in the sense that she was a good woman who was devoted to her family. Extraordinary in the sense of her unconditionally pure, loving heart. A mother and wife shaped by the culture of 1950s domesticity, she left a lasting impression upon every person she met, whether it was a Hallmark card in the mail or blueberry muffins. Always ready with a smile, she believed in goodness, not fear. And even though she made me attend When Mom Dies school, I was still not prepared to become a motherless child. So I wrote this primer for all those daughters who will one day face the death of their mother, a roadmap from my mom to future students who would rather skip school. This is my book, 18 Minutes, A Daughter's Primer on Life and Death, and I'd just like to read you the prologue to the book so you have a sense of the intention with which I wrote it. Prologue, From Birth to Death. Some say the creation of human life is a miracle, but what happens immediately after birth is the real phenomenon, where all the hard work will now be done independently by an unscathed being who has absolutely no idea of what is to come. Think about it. First, we are expelled from the womb, that voluptuous embrace of warmth and blood and nourishment on demand, where mother's body has been doing all the work for 9 months. Then the umbilical cord lifeline is severed, and the very first moment of liberation takes place. Water that fills the lungs is squeezed out by the pressure of sliding through the birth canal and is soon replaced by air. That first intake of breath forces the lungs to expand, resulting in a shrill cry of happiness, the welcome wagon of life. The shriek continues until breathing becomes normal. As infants, we are oblivious to the reality that this is the first of many crying jags to come. Oxygen levels increase, heartbeats strengthen, eyes are wiped clear for an initial fuzzy view of this new place called home, which no doubt raises the question as to why departure from the sloshy, lovely, warm universe was necessary in the first place. Skin color warms and changes from bluish purple to pink. Weight and height are documented. Fingers and toes are counted. A warm blanket enfolds us as we are brought to our Creator. 5 tiny fingers reach for the new umbilical cord, known as our mother. Then the lifelong journey begins. In contrast, the last minutes of our lives are not predetermined. None of us know when or how the moment will come when our hearts will stop beating and our lungs will cease striving to take in air. If you're not at home in your own bed, surrounded by the people you love when that time comes, you will likely be alone in a hospital or a facility. There may be no time to be embraced by those who love you, no time to predict the moment when life, as you know it, ends. Loved ones left behind will weep as you leave this earth. So that's Kasey and that's me. If you'd like to attend Life, Death, and Cake, please feel free to join us at one of the following locations as many times as you'd like. There's absolutely no cost involved. And did I mention we'll have cake? And yes, Kleenex. Lots of Kleenex. In Vermont, on Wednesday, February 15th, you can join us at the Springfield Library in the Flynn Room from 2 to 4 p.m. And in New Hampshire, on Sunday, March 5th, at the Dublin Arts and Muse Center in Dublin, New Hampshire, 1459 Main Street, from 2 to 4. And on Thursday, March 23rd, at the United Church of Christ in downtown Keene, in the chapel on the first floor, and that's an evening program from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Kasey, any final words from you before we close?
I really hope that we see you at one of our events and that everyone has the support they need with their families as they're transitioning to death.
Thanks for watching. We hope to see you soon. I'll end with my mother's favorite quote by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. This was the bumper sticker she had on her car. This was how she lived. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.